63 Mount Dora, Orlando. News Radio WFLA Orlando, an iHeart radio station.
Downplaying concerns. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The White House saying President Trump and Vice President Pence had little contact with a foreign official who's tested positive for coronavirus.
This afternoon, new concerns about President Trump's health after an aide to Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, who had dinner with the president at Mar-a-Lago last weekend, tested positive for the virus. While the president came in contact with the aide standing beside him and Bolsonaro has been tested and is being monitored, President Trump appeared unconcerned.
The press aide was there. If he was there, he was there. But we did nothing very unusual. We sat next to each other for a period of time.
Senator Lindsey Graham, who was at Mar-a-Lago that night, revealed today he has been tested for coronavirus and is self-quarantining.
Fox's John Roberts at the White House. Another coronavirus task force meeting this afternoon as the team gets an update on the progress of making test kits available to the public.
It's not going to be months. It's going to be a week or so where you're going to get many, many more tests that are going to be available.
Dr. Anthony Fauci with the National Institutes of Health. One of the hardest hit areas, Washington State, where Governor Jay Inslee announced earlier public gatherings of more than 250 people will be banned in Snohomish, Pierce, and King counties. In Seattle, schools will be closed for at least 2 weeks. The U.S. military responding after an attack on a base outside Baghdad that left 2 U.S. personnel dead.
U.S. military sources tell us that U.S.-led airstrikes are underway currently as we speak in response to the attack on the Taji Air Base that left 2 Americans and 1 British soldier dead yesterday. This is a response to the 30 rockets that were fired at the Taji base. We understand that there are airstrikes taking place in multiple locations.
Fox's Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon. America is listening to Fox News.
Now, news from the WFLA News Center.
The number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the state continue to go up. Among the latest include a 57-year-old man in Lee County, a 56-year-old Miami-Dade County man, a 70-year-old man from Broward, and a New York man who recently visited Daytona Beach. Broward County now has 5 infected residents, which is the most of any county in the state. Today, Seminole County reported its first confirmed case in a 68-year-old man. Senator Rick Scott is self-quarantining after he may have been exposed to a person with the COVID-19.
The potential contact came Monday when Scott met with the president of Brazil in Miami. The infected person was in the same room, but the senator said they didn't have direct contact. Scott says he talked to the Senate's physician and his own doctor and was told his risk for COVID-19 is low. He is not experiencing any symptoms, and he decided to self-quarantine out of an abundance of caution. The Brazilian president spent the weekend in South Florida making trips to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump and the admiral who was in charge of Southern Command.
Rory O'Neill reporting. 2 South Florida mayors also in self-quarantine. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez deciding to self-isolate after he learned he was also in the same room with the Brazilian presidential delegation member.
I feel healthy, strong, and more than capable of doing my job as mayor. As such, I will continue to lead our government remotely to ensure that our operations run smoothly and efficiently.
On Twitter this afternoon, Miami-Dade Mayor Carlos Jimenez announced he's also self-isolating in his Coconut Grove home after he came in close contact to the aide to the president of Brazil. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says the state will soon have the capacity to test more than 625,000 people for the virus. New testing kits have been purchased. They will start arriving at qualified state labs this weekend. There are 50 labs throughout the state that have been designated, including hospitals. With Florida's news, I'm John Conrad.
From the Airflow Designs Heating and Air Conditioning Traffic Center.
Westbound travel on Colonial Drive still shut down between 436 and Rickenbacker Drive due to an earlier crash. Consider the 408 or Lake Underhill Road or even a residential side street. Eastbound direction is open, but there are massive delays here, so avoid this area altogether. Westbound travel on I-4 slow between Fairbanks Avenue and Ivanhoe Boulevard and also between Sand Lake Road and Central Florida Parkway. We're seeing eastbound delays too between John Young Parkway and Cayley Avenue. See traffic problems? Call the Safe Touch Security Traffic Tip Line at pound 250 keyword Orlando Traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Florida Department of Transportation. Whether you walk, bike, or drive, be on the lookout for Vision Zero zones. Law enforcement will be out in force to ensure traffic laws are being obeyed and everyone is sharing the road responsibly. Alert today, alive tomorrow, because safety doesn't happen by accident.
from the Airflow Designs Heating and Air Conditioning Weather Center.
Here's your News Radio WFLA Orlando exclusive AccuWeather forecast. Clear to partly cloudy skies Thursday night, the low 61. Friday, mostly sunny, very warm, the high 88. Saturday and Sunday, very warm with times of clouds and sunshine, the high Saturday 88, Sunday's high 89. Intervals of clouds and sunshine Monday with a passing shower or two. It'll be very warm with a high of 86. All day, every day, news, weather, and traffic on News Radio WFLA Orlando. I'm Drew Shannon.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. You only want to use the best route to drive across town, so do the same when you need to hire. Indeed provides hiring managers the straightest path to the best new employees. Customized solutions like screener questions and skills tests will help you see beyond the resume. Post your next job at Indeed.com/hire.
Now on FM 94.1. Still on FM 93.1. News Radio WFLA Orlando. And still on AM 540. Beyond Reason Radio.
So I just want to start the show by telling you what not to do in the face of coronavirus. Because one NBA player had to learn the hard way that this is not something to be careless about. Rudy Gobert, who's basically he's been diagnosed with coronavirus. It is because of his diagnosis that the NBA has canceled, suspended, I guess, the rest of the season. Who knows if it's going to be canceled permanently or not at this point. But what he did just a few days ago is what you don't do. On Monday, Gobert jokingly mocked the NBA's temporary rules requiring media members to keep a 6 to 8 foot distance from players. Gobert, a Magic Johnson, according to ESPN.com, Gobert, a Magic Johnson Award nominee last season due to his cooperation with the media, made a point to touch all the microphones and recording devices on the table in front of him after finishing his post-shoot-around availability, which was set up in an interview at the team's practice facility instead of normal courtside area. He had a similar cavalier attitude in the locker room. That's what the Jazz players said. And he exchanged high fives with teammates in recent games. He was feeling symptoms and decided to joke about it, but now he has apologized, obviously, because he's been diagnosed. He put on his Instagram, "I want to thank everyone for the outpouring of concern and support over the last 24 hours. I've gone through so many emotions since learning of my diagnosis, mostly fear, anxiety, and embarrassment, obviously. The first and most important thing is I would like to publicly apologize to the people I may have endangered. At this time, I had no idea I was infected. I was careless and make no excuse. I hope my story serves as a warning and causes everyone to take this seriously." I think so, but that's definitely an example of what you do not do in result of this. It is Beyond Reason, obviously. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, your voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. We're until 8 p.m. tonight right here on News Radio WFLA Orlando, where you can also catch the podcast anywhere podcasts are available. You can like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page as well. We're on Facebook Live. I'm going to try to be a voice of reason through all of this. It's going to be difficult because there really aren't a lot of voices of reason on this, it seems like, when I'm watching the reaction to some of this. But we'll get into that in a moment. But Tom Benson is joining me as well.
I am here.
You feeling okay?
I feel fine.
You know,
I haven't touched the mic.
Yeah, don't touch the mics or anything. So I thought I would go to you because there have been a ton of breaking news in the past 24 to 48 hours.
Besides the NBA, a lot of sports are taking a big hit. Yeah. I think the biggest hit is the fact there's not going to be any March Madness this year.
Yeah, it's huge. And that means I don't think they're going to suspend it. I think it's just done.
I think so, too. Because a lot of players are probably getting close to graduation and testing time. And this is not only the NCAA men's tournament, it's also the women's tournament that's affected. Major League Baseball today shut down as of 4 o'clock this afternoon, the remainder of spring training in Florida and also in Arizona. And they're delaying the start of the regular season by at least 2 weeks. It was scheduled to open up on March the 26th, which really was the earliest date ever for the play to start. But they're going to stop at suspended for at least 2 weeks. Other sports-related items that are affected, Major League Soccer's off. The NHL has suspended or postponed their seasons. I understand there's going to be a couple of car races with no one in the audience, just the races going themselves. Now, that's good for TV because the ratings are going to go up. But, I mean, all the other sports that are canceled, that's a lot of people who are affected. You know, you're talking about the people who sell the hot dogs, the hamburgers, the technicians.
There's the bars around.
And March Madness is a big deal. During the rest of the month of March, I'm sure it generates millions of dollars.
Yeah. There is no doubt this is going to have an effect on the economy, and it goes even beyond that, even beyond sports venues.
That's right, because Disneyland out in California is heeding the wisdom of the government out there, and they've which has declared an state of emergency out there. So Disneyland is closing as of Saturday for the remainder of the month of March on the short end. No word on Disney World here or Universal.
You have to think it's coming, though.
But you would think.
Especially since we had a new case today in Seminole County.
Mm-hmm. It's probably going to be sooner or later, but still no official word on Disney World and Universal and also SeaWorld.
Yeah, and all the water parks, I'm sure.
As for the city of Orlando, they're wary of the coronavirus threat to the elderly. They decided late today to close all the senior citizens centers and also suspend all programs indefinitely. So hunker down in your home.
You know, it's interesting that you say the words hunker down because, you know, in the morning show, we had a lot of people that were very texting in, calling very cynical of all of this. Mm-hmm. They feel like it's a lot of hype generated by the media to ultimately hurt Trump and his reelection. Mm-hmm. And I think people feel that way because this hasn't really hit them yet. The things being canceled and stuff hits them a little bit, but until you actually get sick or know someone who gets sick or know of someone, you know, a friend of a friend who got sick, until people around you start actually getting the virus, it still seems kind of far off, I think, to people.
Sure. It's a lot like when there's a recession. If there's a recession, it affects your neighbor across the street. If it's a depression, it affects you and your house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so since most of the reaction people are getting is just from the media and media reports and cancellations, they're not seeing people get sick or they don't know anyone who's gotten sick. It doesn't seem real yet. And I think that's why a lot of people are cynical. Now, the other reason is because the Democrats have tried to use this to politicize it, to hurt Trump, but also to push their agenda. That's something I talked about on Tuesday's show. It's definitely happening. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But I think for a lot of people, they're cynical because it doesn't feel real yet. And you said hunker down. It reminds me of preparing for a hurricane.
Sure.
Because it feels like it's out there and it's kind of coming. You know, when a hurricane's approaching Florida, you sometimes have days or even weeks before it gets here.
It's looming off the coast.
And it's looming out there, and nothing's in your daily life has really changed. You're just preparing for it.
Sure.
And that's kind of what this feels like. We're sort of preparing for this to really start, and we don't know what to do right now, and there's so much uncertainty, so everybody's kind of hunkering down. The good news is once this thing passes, it's not when a hurricane comes, it destroys a lot of property, the power goes out, you have a lot of disruption that lasts beyond the event. The good news is once this passes, for the most part, we can just almost immediately get back to our daily lives. It's just getting through this tough time. And I think we can get through this tough time. I think we can, but we need the right leadership and we need people in this country to do the right thing and stand together. It also kind of reminds me, I was trying to think of examples.
Mm-hmm. This
is probably the closest thing in my life to experiencing maybe a country on a war footing.
Mm.
You know, I often think about what it was like in World War II when we were attacked.
Mm-hmm.
But not only that, but the European countries who actually were attacked.
Sure.
So their whole country changes overnight, and the whole country gets together on almost a war footing. And I feel like this is the closest the United States has been on a war footing has been attacked. Kind of an example, maybe in a long, long time. Even though it's not a war, it almost feels like that because it's coming on our shores and we're having to change our daily lives to fight against it. So that, to me, those are the two best examples I've seen of this. But there is some hype, and we'll get to that in a moment. We also have to get into Trump's response and Trump's address last night. Because President Trump, when I first watched his speech, it seemed pretty good for the most part, and I think it was fine. But there were definitely some mistakes during the speech that, to me, are inexcusable. I'm sorry. You can't make these kind of mistakes when you're President of the United States giving an Oval Office address dealing with a pandemic that has a lot of people concerned and anxious. The first example is when Trump talked about his travel ban, and he said this.
To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days. The new rules will go into effect Friday at midnight. These restrictions will be adjusted subject to conditions on the ground. There will be exemptions for Americans who have undergone appropriate screenings, and these prohibitions will not only apply to the tremendous amount of trade and cargo, but various other things as we get approval. Anything coming from Europe to the United States is what we are discussing. These restrictions will also not apply to the United Kingdom.
So I don't blame Trump completely for this because he was obviously reading and it was obviously a typo. So he said these prohibitions also apply to trade and cargo, which is not true. It doesn't apply to that. He had to clarify that later. But right after that, he said, and the exemptions also apply. And I think they meant to put the exemptions also apply to cargo. And then the exemptions also apply to the other things. But it was obviously a mistake. And to me, you can't make those kind of mistakes when you have the time to prepare and you're President of the United States and you're literally reading off the teleprompter. You have to have these things buttoned up. Now, the next mistake he made, because there was a few in the speech, which is a problem. This is a time where you have to be buttoned up. And I know this is not something Trump is good at, but he's got to get good at it if he wants to show true leadership here. But here's the next thing.
Earlier this week, I met with the leaders of health insurance industry who have agreed to waive all co-payments for coronavirus treatments, extend insurance coverage to these treatments, and to prevent surprise medical billing.
That is not true. They're not waiving co-payments for treatments. They're waiving co-payments for testing. And that's a big difference from treatments. And that's something you have to... So the President of the United States is speaking to millions of people, reading off something, totally seeming like he's prepared, and he's already wrong on two things. And this was only a 10-minute speech. You can't do that, Mr. President. You got to get this stuff right, or just don't talk. Have Mike Pence talk. Mike Pence seems to be a lot more buttoned up on this kind of stuff.
Or Dr. Fauci. I've been impressed with him.
Yeah, and Dr. Fauci, you know, the one thing I like about him is he's very straight with us.
Mm-hmm.
You don't sense that he's hiding anything.
Right.
He's basically just saying, look, this is the way it is. And so I just feel like Trump, you've got to show better leadership or you're going to lose the next election. And I don't want you to lose because the Democrats are already using this to push for a big government agenda. They want to use this as an example to push for things like Medicare for All. And if you lose Trump, and if the Republicans lose in November, there is going to be a huge push for that after this. And I don't want to see that happen. So he has to do better. And most of my criticisms of Trump, even since the beginning of his presidency, are not his actions. It seems like when you look at the actions from the administration, even in the midst of this pandemic, they've been good. Pence has been seeing these governors. The governors have praised a lot of the response from the administration. The only issue has been there hasn't been enough test kits. That's not Trump's fault. That was a technical error made by the CDC, which Dr. Fauci even had admitted. And luckily, the private sector has been able to pick up a lot of the slack, which the CDC failed at. But that has been an issue. But for the most part, the administration response has been good. The part of the administration response that has been bad is Trump either won't shut his mouth when he needs to shut his mouth, or when he needs to talk, he got it wrong. It's his mouth versus his actions. And in a time like this, words from the president matter. They just do. People are not going to excuse it anymore as, oh, that's just Trump. Other issues, they're willing to do that. This one, they're not, and it could hurt him politically. Now, that being said, the Democrats are still using this to promote partisan divides. And I'll tell you how next. We have so much to get to. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Download the iHeartRadio app and catch the Beyond Reason Radio podcast.
Message and data rates may apply. Do you want to learn how to get started making money flipping houses right here in Orlando? If so, we have an amazing opportunity for you. We're looking for a small group of motivated individuals to join our real estate investing team. You'll be introduced to our 3-step system for flipping homes right here in the local area. This is Than Merrill, star of A&E's hit TV show Flip This House. My team and I are looking for a handful of people in the Orlando area who want to learn how to get started making money flipping houses in your spare time using other people's money. Orlando is a perfect market for my system, and next week I'm holding a free 2-hour educational workshop where we'll share how to get started making money flipping houses and how to build long-term wealth with income properties.
To get 2 free tickets to Than's workshop, text your 5-digit zip code to 82,000. Seating is extremely limited, so text your 5-digit zip code to 82,000. Text in the next 10 minutes, and you'll also reserve a free copy of Than's Money for Deals Guide. Just text your zip code to 82,000.
Attention men and women, if you're one of the millions that suffer from discomfort with your knee, back, or shoulder, and it's becoming harder to enjoy simple things like working out or just going for a walk, please listen carefully. My name is Donna Taylor, founder of CBD Labs. And here's my story. I was suffering with so much physical discomfort that I had to do something about it. With CBD products popping up everywhere, how do you know which product to use? I was determined to create the most powerful CBD product available from the hemp plant that contains no THC. And we did. CBD Labs is the highest concentrate full-spectrum CBD tested in FDA labs. It goes to work in just minutes, and we guarantee it. Call now and find out how to get a free bottle of CBD Labs and get our ebook on everything and anything CBD as your free gift.
To get your free bottle of CBD Labs CBD oil, call 800-605-8842. That's 800-605-8842. Free bottles for limited time. Call now. 800-605-8842. That's 800-605-8842.
Later, much later, we heard something. We didn't breathe for listening. Then footsteps on the back porch, creeping, then more confident. After all, nobody was home. A hand closed on the knob on the screen door to the kitchen and found it latched. We heard a little sawing sound as a file began to slice through the screen wire. Grandma reached down for something in her sewing basket. Through the darkness, I managed to notice Grandma's rocker was rocking and she wasn't in it. She was standing over me. "Keep just behind me," she whispered. I followed her across the room into the kitchen. Now we were by the door, and I heard the scuffle of heavy feet in there on the crinkly linoleum. Grandma turned back to me. Under my nose, she struck a wooden match with her thumbnail. She touched the match to something in her other hand. It sizzled. Then she leaned down and rolled it into the invisible kitchen. Explore new worlds. Find out what happens next by reading the book A Long Way from Chicago by Richard Peck. For other great book ideas, visit literacy.gov. A message from the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
Broadcasting from the Mills Air Studios. For all your AC needs, go to millsair.com to schedule an appointment. The voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason is back now.
Yes, welcome back to the show. I will try to be your voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. The coronavirus is still dominating the news. COVID-19, novel form of coronavirus, is dominating the news. But a lot of people are not feeling it yet because we don't know people that are getting sick. We're not getting sick. It hasn't spread. We haven't had as much community spread yet, at least that we know of. The problem is there's a lot we don't know, and there haven't been enough tests. And because there haven't been enough tests, there's a good chance there's a lot more people that are carrying it in the U.S., and we just don't know about it. The good news is, as reported by the Associated Press, is most people who get the coronavirus will recover. So more than 60,000 people have recovered from the coronavirus spreading throughout the globe. That is good news. That's something we all have to remember. But that being said, the people that recover could still spread it. And that's the problem. Now, President Trump, I was going over some of his address last night on this. Like I said, for the most part, it was good. It's just he made some mistakes that are just inexcusable. And his actions are good. What he wants to do are good. We're going to get into the travel ban in a moment. The reaction to that from the Democrats and the media has been beyond reason, no doubt about it. But Trump did say something here that I agree with, that I wish the Democrats would agree with, and I don't think they do. Here it is.
We are all in this together. We must put politics aside, stop the partisanship, and unify together as one nation and one family. As history has proven time and time again, Americans always rise to the challenge and overcome adversity. Our future remains brighter than anyone can imagine. Acting with compassion and love, we will heal the sick, care for those in need, help our fellow citizens, and emerge from this challenge stronger and more unified than ever before.
So he says we need to put partisanship aside. Now, Trump has not been doing that either, at least in the past few weeks. So hopefully President Trump will take his own advice there. But the Democrats really need to take his advice as well. And I don't see any evidence that they're going to take that advice. It seems like partisanship is still ruling the day in Washington, D.C., even after this.
Most of the pundits that I've seen on TV remark about his speech last night, regardless of the problems with what you have pointed out already, is the fact that the tone was correct, except for Chuck Schumer. He said the delivery was robotic. In other words, there was no empathy there.
Trump is not the greatest at reading off a teleprompter. The idea that I just feel like that's a silly criticism. I just do. I mean,
well, my point is, it's the Democratic.
Yeah, they're just finding
Charles,
things.
Right? Exactly.
They're just trying to search for things to criticize him with.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And there's a huge example of that we're going to get into in just a couple of minutes. But I wanted to give you an example of just how the Democrats are reacting to this. So this was actually before the speech, but this is Congressman Hakeem Jeffries yesterday talking to reporters about what Congress is trying to do. Just listen to what he said here.
We've got to find common ground with the White House and the Senate to provide necessary relief given the economic trauma that will result from the manner in which the coronavirus has been mishandled by the White House.
They just can't help themselves. They just can't help themselves. So it's, well, we have to have economic relief because this has been mishandled by the White House. That if it was handled somewhat differently by the White House, everything would be fine. But they never give any examples of what they would have done differently. Well, I mean, seriously, what would Hakeem Jeffries have done differently than Trump? In fact, I think it might have been worse because Trump was willing to basically shut down travel from areas of China, which a lot of people criticized him for at the time, saying was xenophobic and racist. Some of his own advisors did that. Trump had the guts to do that. But Tom Benson, inform me. I don't know. What are these Democrats? What would they have done differently? What would they have done differently?
Like I've always said, the president can say the sky is blue, and the Democrats would push back.
I guess. Because I'm not getting... Because, yes, Trump has said some things that I disagree with, but in terms of the actions of the administration, it seems like they have done everything they can. Mm-hmm. They have been working with Washington. They have been working with New York. They have been working with here in Florida. The CDC has been working. Dr. Fauci has been out there every single day. They've been working with the private sector when things have happened. I don't know what they would have done differently.
And the administration has been praised by Democratic California Governor Newsom.
Yeah, Newsom said
everything we've asked for, we've gotten, he said.
Mm-hmm. Even Jay Inslee, last Sunday on the Sunday shows, the governor of Washington, said he met with Mike Pence and he worked with Mike Pence and everything has been going great. They've been working together to confront this. I don't understand what the Democrats would have done differently. They're not saying what they would. Even Joe Biden came out today. He had his own plan. There's nothing really different in it. It's just mostly bashing Trump because they don't like him personally and things he says. But basically everything he's done has been done by the Trump administration. So there is something beyond reason, though, that the Democrats and the media and the left are criticizing Trump for. That is definitely beyond reason. We'll get to that next. And much more. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you miss any of the show, you can download the Beyond Reason podcast on iTunes. Listen to us anywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Search WFLA Orlando.
This time on eastbound I-4, as you get to the east end of the Greenway and work your way towards the St. Johns River, expect to see a slight bit of heavy volume. In the Orlando area, you're going to see a little bit of heavy traffic on westbound I-4 as you approach the exit for the Orange Blossom Trail. Much further delays on westbound I-4 after 192 as you head to the 429. And we do have a crash on westbound Colonial that's clearing up after 436. See traffic problems? Call the Safe Touch Security Traffic Tip Line at pound 250, keyword Orlando Traffic. From the Traffic Center, I'm Steve Foster.
Stay ahead of the storm with Operation Stormwatch on News Radio WFLA Orlando. From the Airflow Designs Heating and Air Conditioning Weather Center.
Here's your News Radio WFLA Orlando exclusive AccuWeather forecast. Clear to partly cloudy skies Thursday night, the low 61. Friday, mostly sunny, very warm, the high 88. Saturday and Sunday, very warm with times of clouds and sunshine, the high Saturday 88, Sunday's high 89. Intervals of clouds and sunshine Monday with a passing shower or two. It'll be very warm with a high of 86. All day, every day, news, weather, and traffic on News Radio WFLA Orlando. I'm Drew Shannon.
Hey, it's Melissa Fox from Good Morning Orlando. Join me Thursday nights at 9 o'clock when I do my thing called Connection Show. It's relationship radio with a twist. We invite experts in the field to come and help us out with everything from relationship problems to health questions and more. Sponsored by Stages of Life Medical Institute in Longwood. Every Thursday night at 9 o'clock. Listen to the podcast on the iHeartRadio app. Search Connection Show.
How can International Diamond Center consistently offer the best diamonds at the lowest price? Well, it starts with owner Keith LeClaire's unique history.
I started in the wholesale side of the business. We've been in manufacturing. We've been in diamond cutting, at a diamond cutting facility.
Keith's ability to source diamonds is second to none, with global connections, including De Beers site holders.
There are diamond centers around the world. We're in all of them. We're cutting out all these middle guys.
And to further drive down prices, Keith buys in huge quantities and then cherry picks only the best for IDC showrooms.
If anybody ever comes in here, they'll see me with my head down and I'm sorting diamonds.
And because Keith thinks like a wholesaler, he's turned the whole retailer jewelry business model upside down with higher volume and lower profit margins.
We can work on reduced margins. It's simple for us. We've done it our whole life. For 38 years, we've done it.
Worldwide connections, unrivaled buying power, high volume, low margins. That's the IDC advantage.
The finest quality at the best price, guaranteed.
International Diamond Center with 4 Orlando locations.
Rush Limbaugh. This is all going to end when somebody finally wakes up and realizes it's nowhere near as bad, and it's not going to get as bad as everybody is afraid that it might be, as some people want it to be. And then we're going to move forward, and this economy is going to rebound. The stock market's going to rebound. It's going to shock everybody. And it's probably going to happen way before the November elections, which is going to really disappoint the media.
Rush Limbaugh, weekdays noon till 3. News Radio WFLA Orlando. The place where we talk faith, culture, and politics. Beyond Reason Radio continues.
So you want to talk about it getting real, at least for me personally? This is the breaking news today about the coronavirus in Florida. The first coronavirus case in Seminole County was reported. A 68-year-old man who was tested at Advent Health, Altamont Springs, which is literally just like a mile or two from where I live. The Florida Department of Health says the man who had been on a Nile River cruise in Torn, Egypt, which seems to be where most of these Florida cases are coming from, is now being isolated. Advent Health said the man is not being treated at the hospital. So not being treated at the hospital. Where is he being treated then? Interesting, though, that, I mean, that's pretty close to where I live. I live in Altamont. So now it's a travel-related case, but you wonder where he's been since he traveled.
Sure.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
So it kind of got real for me there a little bit. Now, another reason it did is because we were giving away tickets to Brian Regan, a comedian, on the morning show. That's been canceled because of this, or at least postponed. And my fiance has tickets for a show in Dr. Phillips over the weekend. I have not heard, but that might be canceled, and it probably will be. It was supposed to be for a Saturday night. So I'm a little problem. So, I mean, it's getting a little bit real even for me in some ways, even though I don't know anyone who's gotten sick or anything.
A lot of the cancellations are for overcaution, and that's fine.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know, it's what you have to do at this stage of this whole, quote, crisis.
Yeah, like I said, the good news is, as you've heard from others say, once this passes, the economy should probably boom after it because there'll be a lot of pent-up demand.
I've heard that, yeah.
So there's no systemic issues unless we really screw up this response, or unless maybe the Democrats get control, and that could be another issue. I do want to get into some economic aspects of this in a moment, but we have to talk about one thing that President Trump said during his speech last night that really got the left and the media very, very, very upset. And I'm going to play it for you, and you're probably not going to understand why it would get people mad, but man, did it get the Twitter world and the left and the media very, very upset. Here it is.
This is the most aggressive and comprehensive effort to confront a foreign virus in modern history.
Okay. Seems fine, right? Seems very... Yeah, okay, that's good. I like that the president is trying to really confront this virus. What in that one little statement would have made the media go, and the left and the Democrats go berserk? Well, all you have to do is listen to New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. He was on CNN today talking with his brother Chris Cuomo, or I think it was last night. That's when his brother's show was on. And he was responding to all this, and he said this.
First of all, it was shocking to people, and that is my point. This is not about a foreign virus, whatever that means. It's here. It's community spread. It's much more prevalent than we know. The testing does not reflect what it is. These are not random sample tests. It's because we have no testing capacity.
He's upset because Trump called it a foreign virus. So many people apparently are upset that he called it a foreign virus. Now, when we have foreign leaders from other countries come and visit Trump, is it xenophobic to say they're foreign leaders? Or if you have foreign goods come that we import to the country, is that xenophobic to call it foreign? He's literally just stating a fact. It is a foreign virus. It started overseas in China. Now, China is trying to act like it didn't or something. They have some weird propaganda campaign going on to try to combat that. Fox News had that earlier today. It's really bizarre. I don't even understand how they think they can get away with it. Russia's doing the same thing, so you can't trust either of them what they say on things. But of all the things to get upset about, he said foreign virus, stating a fact, and they cannot get away from identity politics. They live and die on identity politics. It is the Democrat Party and the left's number one thing is identity politics. Everything always comes back to identity politics. And when you're talking about a disease now, what are we afraid we're going to offend the disease? I don't know. This is ridiculous. And Joe Biden came out today, and of course he's going to use this for his campaign because he's running against Trump and he wants to make Trump look bad and he wants to make it seem like if he were president, I guess there would be no cases. Everything would be great.
Yeah, there would be no gaffes at all.
Yeah, exactly. There would be no gaffes. There would be no cases. Disneyland would still be open. The March Madness would be going if Joe Biden were just president. But even he today came out and criticized Trump over calling it a foreign virus. I don't get it. Here it is.
But neither should we panic or fall back on xenophobia. Labeling COVID-19 a foreign virus does not displace accountability for the misjudgments that have been taken thus far by the Trump administration. Let me be crystal clear. The coronavirus does not have a political affiliation. It will infect Republicans, independents, and Democrats alike, and will not discriminate based on national origin, race, gender, or zip code. It will touch people in positions of power as well as most vulnerable in our society. And it will not stop. Banning all travel from Europe or any other part of the world may slow it, but as we've seen, it will not stop it.
He even admits it may slow it. He even admits that's the goal. The goal is to slow it down so you give us more time to be prepared for it and hopefully get a vaccine or antiviral drugs. The whole point is to slow it down. He even admits that before that. He says it's xenophobic to call it a foreign virus. Their identity politics has warped their minds to the point where it doesn't make any sense. Because he shut down the borders, which is, of course, what you would want to do in a case of a pandemic. That's exactly one of the first things you want to do, is to shut down the people from spreading it to other places. It totally makes sense. And he used this to somehow make Trump a racist because he merely stated a fact. I don't understand this.
Unless you've been living under a rock, you know where it came from.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if you want a voice of reason on this, this is the voice of reason of the day, which I try to play a lot on Beyond Reason Radio. Mike Pence, who's head of the coronavirus task force, I think he's doing a great job. Even Democrats are admitting that. He was on Fox and Friends this morning, and he talked about the travel ban and why they're doing it. And when you actually hear his explanation, it makes Joe Biden and Andrew Cuomo and all the leftists look stupid. Here it is.
Our focus here, in addition to preventing the coronavirus from being brought in. And what we learned from our health experts in the last 36 hours was that yesterday, as of the 35 cases where we had coronavirus cases, about 30 of those states, 35 states, 30 of those states actually could trace the contact to someone in Europe. That's the reason the president took the decisive action he took. Right. But make no mistake about it, we are also focusing on supporting efforts at the state and local level in California, in Washington State, and in California. CDC issued very strong guidelines for those communities about public activities, large gatherings, schools, and we'll continue simply to follow the data on this and make strong recommendations where we have what's known as community spread.
So he says there, a lot of cases that we have in the last few weeks are directly traced back to Europe. That is why we decided to do a travel ban on Europe to stop the spread because, and he mentioned earlier in the interview, I don't have the audio here, but he said the epicenter of this virus started in China and then South Korea. It has moved to Europe. All the health experts are admitting that. The epicenter right now is in Europe. So to stem the flow and to slow the pandemic, which is the goal, you want to contain it at the epicenter, which is why they are closing down travel from the epicenter. It makes sense when you explain it that way. He's merely following the advice of his health experts, and you have Joe Biden saying that's xenophobic. Then Joe Biden tried to make it seem like, well, he doesn't care about community spread. He only cares about it being a foreign virus. But you listen to Pence right there. Pence said, no, that's not true. You can do multiple things at once. The administration is doing multiple things at once. Of course they are. They are preventing more people from bringing it to the U.S., but they're also working with local and state governments to prevent community spread. And he explained the actions there. It totally makes sense. So it was definitely beyond reason to hear them get all upset about a foreign virus. Now, the next thing that is going on, this is what I warned you about a couple days ago on Monday's show, and my Twitter troll wanted me to retract this statement, saying, you want to retract this absurd statement now? No, I won't retract it. It's patently obvious. The Democrats want to use this. Never let a crisis go to waste is what I said. They want to use this to promote their agenda, like Medicare for All. And they haven't stopped. They're doing it even more now, and I have some examples here. But here is President Trump talking about the bill that the Democrats in Congress are putting forward right now to try to combat the coronavirus and have help the markets and all that, help the economy. And Trump responded, and I think he's exactly right. Here it is.
No, because there are things in there that have nothing to do with what we're talking about. So, it's not a way for them to get some of the goodies that they haven't been able to get for the last 25 years.
He's exactly right. The Democrats are putting forward a bill that has a bunch of stuff that they've had on their agenda for years, and they want to use this now to push it forward. And if you don't disagree with it, that means you're for people dying or something, or the spread of the virus. That's exactly what they're doing, which is what I warned you about a couple days ago. And another example of this, Bernie Sanders talking about the coronavirus today. What do I have next, AOC or Sanders?
We got Sanders.
Okay, let's go to Bernie Sanders. We'll hear from AOC after that. Talking about how now we need Medicare for all because of the coronavirus. Here it is.
In this moment, we need to make sure that in the future, after this crisis is behind us, we build a healthcare system that makes sure that every person in this country is guaranteed the health care that they need.
So he's been pushing for Medicare for all. He was also on one of the late night shows this week saying, this is why we need Medicare for all. Then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was on Fox News today, which is kind of amazing. I never thought I would see the day, but she was on Special Report with Bret Baier tonight, and she basically was pushing the same thing. American healthcare system is terrible, and this is why we need Medicare for all. Here it is.
So when you look at the best healthcare system in the world, that's something that's up for debate. South Korea has up to 10,000 tests per day. They've been able to provide tests to any single person that wants it, and here people are scrambling. And it almost seems like the more wealthy and powerful you are, the more able you are to access a test. But the more the rougher road you've got here, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to access healthcare. That's exactly the recipe for disaster in a pandemic.
So forget the fact that the federal government failed initially. It was the government organization, the CDC, that failed at their initial test. And what did the government do? They ran to the private sector for help. And the private sector has picked up a lot of the slack when it comes to the testing. That would not happen under a Medicare for All system, because a Medicare for All system would ruin the private sector healthcare parts system in our country and our economy. We have a lot more to get to. I want to shift gears a little bit. I know we've talked a lot about COVID-19. It's going to be a big story for the next months, next month, couple of months. But I do want to move on to my reaction to mini Super Tuesday, the elections of the Democrat primary on Tuesday. It looks like Biden's going to be the nominee. I'm going to tell you why that's actually good news for the Republican Party if they do the right things. We'll get to that next and much more. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you heart Beyond Reason Radio, listen to the Beyond Reason Radio podcast on iHeartRadio. Just download the iHeartRadio app and search Beyond Reason Radio.
Homeowners, because of the current stock market sell-off caused by fears of the coronavirus, mortgage rates have continued to drop. So if your 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is higher than 3.375%, you should call True Mortgage now to see if you qualify for a no-closing cost refi. And when I say no closing costs, I mean no title, escrow, appraisal, or lender fees. Every day you wait, you're burning cash. And as we all know, the world turns in unexpected ways. So what are you waiting for? If your 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is higher than 3.375%, call True Mortgage now to see how much money you can save. Call 800-821-7793. 800-821-7793. That's 800-821-7793. Or visit TrueMortgageLoan.com. Sign on the line, Inc. DBA True Mortgage is located at 100 Spectrum Center Drive, Suite 520, Irvine, California, 92618. NMLS number MLD 1713. Not all loans apply. Equal housing lender.
No more fake news. No more negativity. No more groupthink. It's time for the new media revolution. Join me, David Gronowski, tonight at 8 for A Neighbor's Choice on News Radio WFLA Orlando.
Message and data rates may apply.
Do you want to learn how to get started making money flipping houses right here in Orlando? If so, we have an amazing opportunity for you. We're looking for a small group of motivated individuals to join our real estate investing team. You'll be introduced to our 3-step system for flipping homes right here in the local area. This is Than Merrill, star of A&E's hit TV show Flip This House. My team and I are looking for a handful of people in the Orlando area who want to learn how to get started making money flipping houses in your spare time using other people's money. Orlando is a perfect market for my system, and next week I'm holding a free 2-hour educational workshop where we'll share how to get started making money flipping houses and how to build long-term wealth with income properties.
To get 2 free tickets to Than's workshop, text your 5-digit zip code to 82,000. Seating is extremely limited, so text your 5-digit zip code to 82,000. Text in the next 10 minutes, and you'll also reserve a free copy of Than's Money for Deals Guide. Just text your zip code to 82,000.
See 2020 in 2020. Schedule your free consultation today at Filatowski Eye Institute, iHeartFEI.com.
Zika is still a threat, and its effect on an unborn child can be devastating and lifelong. So we can't let our guard down. To protect against getting Zika from mosquitoes, wear insect repellent, long-sleeve shirts, and long pants. Dump standing water and use window screens or AC. To prevent Zika spread from sex, use condoms, especially if you're pregnant. Let's keep stopping Zika. Learn more at cdc.gov/prevent Zika. This message from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
News Radio WFLA Orlando is available everywhere with the iHeartRadio app. Now #1 for podcasting. News Radio WFLA Orlando, an iHeart radio station. Your voice of truth in a world of fake news. Beyond Reason Radio continues right now.
Yes, welcome back to the show. This is Beyond Reason Radio. We are going to get into some Beyond Reason politics. Just want to remind you that if you missed any of the show, catch the podcast anywhere podcasts are available. You can also find it at our Facebook page. Just like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page, Facebook Live video there as well. You can also follow me on Twitter at Michael Yaffee. That's Yaffee. F as in Frank, F as in Frank, E-E. That's how you spell it. It's an actual word. It's an actual last name. It's not Yappy. It's a lot of people think it is, so I just wanted to point that out. So I did want to get it, like I said, into some politics. Stop laughing at me in there, Tom Benson. I want to get into some politics because I haven't been on since Joe Biden basically dominated in the Democrat primary on Tuesday. He's dominated since Super Tuesday, and he won again last Tuesday, what they call Mini Super Tuesday. Here's a little bit of his victory speech after he won in Michigan.
Just over a week ago, many of the pundits declared that this candidacy was dead. Now we're very much alive. As I said from the beginning, this election is the one that has character on the ballot. The character of the candidates, the character of the nation is on the ballot. It's more than a comeback, in my view, our campaign. It's a comeback for the soul of this nation.
Now, Bernie Sanders admits that he did not have a good night last Tuesday. And he said earlier this week during a speech why he feels like people are going to Joe Biden. Not sure I agree with this, but here's what he said.
We are losing the debate over electability. I cannot tell you how many people our campaign has spoken to who have said, and I quote, "I like what your campaign stands for. I agree with what your campaign stands for. but I'm going to vote for Joe Biden because I think Joe is the best candidate to defeat Donald Trump. End of quote. We have heard that statement all over this country. Needless to say, I strongly disagree with that assertion.
So there you go. He makes it seem like the reason why he's losing is just electability, that people really love what he wants. It's just he's not electable.
But electability is what it's all about, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I guess, but yeah, true. If you want to win elections, you have to be electable. Kind of goes without saying. But I just want to point something out here. The biggest reason why he is struggling is not just electability. He is struggling a lot with black voters. In fact, this is a stunning statistic here. The margin of black support for Mr. Biden over Mr. Sanders in Mississippi was breathtaking, according to the New York Times, 87% to 10%, according to the exit poll. 87% of black voters in the state of Mississippi voted against Bernie Sanders. That's stunning. If you want to know why you're losing, that's right. Now, why do you think that is? I honestly feel like, maybe this is just a gut feeling, but I think a lot of Democrats, a lot of people in this country are rejecting his socialist agenda. And that's good news. I was worried because the core of the Democrat Party seems to be going more and more socialist, more and more left. But it seems like a lot of people in the Democrat Party, mostly minorities, mostly African Americans, are rejecting the socialist agenda. And the reason why I bring this up, and this is something I talked about on the show before, and I'm bringing it up again, I think this shows that there is a huge opportunity for the Republican Party to get more black voters. Because this shows that as the Democrat Party gets more and more to the left, they're not going to get the support from black voters that they once had.
There's a big divide in the Democrats.
Yes, there is a huge divide, and it's an opportunity for the Republicans if they can stand up for free markets, capitalism, stand against socialism, stand up for things like family values like they used to. I think there's a huge opportunity to get black votes because black voters, more and more blacks are entering the workforce, more and more are entering the middle class and the upper middle class, more and more are becoming successful, and they like other blacks who are successful. They don't, because we've combated a lot of racism in this country, it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. They no longer want to just be victims. They want to be successful. And they're not going to respond to the socialist agenda. Now, something I need to talk about next week's show, but I'll just do it here in a minute real quick on this coronavirus thing. I just want to say, with all of these stimulus packages and everything else that they're promoting, it's going to push us more and more into debt. And I still feel like the biggest weakness in our economy right now, and for the past few years, is that we have piled, not just the government, but as a country, as an economy, too much of our economy is built on too much debt, which isn't a problem when times are good. But when you have something like a coronavirus happen, all of a sudden, your debt is really weighing you down. We need to be a country that focuses more on saving for the crises, saving for the rainy day. And I feel like we have not been doing that. And I see President Trump pushing for the Federal Reserve to go to negative interest rates. If we go to negative interest rates, all that does is encourage more and more debt, when we need to start encouraging more and more saving for reasons like this. When we have a crisis, we're no longer prepared because we're all in too much debt, and then we run to the federal government to save us. It is a problem, something I'll talk about more in future shows. Got to a lot of it in this show. If you missed anything, catch the podcast anywhere that podcasts are available. Make sure to like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page. Follow me on Twitter. Keep listening to the show. Share with your friends. And I will be back next time.
prescription products require an online physician consultation and are only available if the physician determines a prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. See website for full details and important safety information.
Hey guys, good news. The expensive little blue pill is now generic, which means the prescription medication to treat ED is super affordable at 4hims.com. And now get your first online doctor's visit free at 4hims.com. That's right. Zero copay, no awkward face-to-face conversations to get your prescription. That's really good news. To start your free online visit, go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/joy.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/trial. That's ZipRecruiter.com/trial.
WFLF Pine Hills, Orlando. WMGF